They don't remember your name until someone else reminds them why they should. Let us know in the comment section below if you've ever seen someone stand up for what's right when no one else would. And make sure to subscribe so you never miss another story that honors our veterans with the respect they deserve. Gregory Talbot didn't like being told no, especially not by a man who worked behind a greasy grill, flipping sausage patties like it was the pinnacle of his life. In Gregory's world, a world of linen suits, quarterly revenue reports, and social media optics, people like that weren't supposed to talk back. They were supposed to keep their heads down, smile politely, and say yes sir, even when their dignity was being chewed up and spit into the fryer. He was walking through the polished marble walkway of Westfield Pines Mall, his loafers clicking like metronomes of power. His assistant Marta struggled to keep pace while thumbing through her iPad. "We're down 10% foot traffic compared to last month," she reported, "but we've got a shot to recover with the spring promo." Gregory raised a hand. A sharp, silent command. She shut up instantly. His eyes had locked on the food court, specifically on a man he despised, not for anything he'd done recently, but for what he represented. That man, wearing a white apron and stained chef's cap, stood behind the counter of Logan's Griddle, pouring batter into perfect circles without a word. A small American flag sat taped to the glass counter. Underneath it, a framed photo of a Marine squad in Fallujah. "Why is he still here?" Gregory muttered. Marta looked up, confused. "You mean Mr. Price?" "Don't say his name like it means something," Gregory said, narrowing his eyes. "It's bad optics." "Bad?" "Sir, he's a veteran. People like him. He's a liability." Gregory turned to her, lowering his voice with venom. "That uniform, that flag, that whole propaganda aesthetic, it reminds people of war, of mess. This is a mall. People come here to forget about that crap." Marta hesitated. "We've gotten positive comments, actually. Several reviews mention him by name. Logan's food is the only reason I come here anymore," one person said. Gregory turned fully toward her now, his voice sharp enough to draw blood. "I'm not running a VFW canteen, Marta. I'm running a premium retail experience. You think Gucci wants to open a store next to a guy serving bacon in combat boots?" She didn't reply. She knew it wouldn't matter if she did. Gregory adjusted his designer cuffs and strode toward the food court like a man about to remove a tumor. Meanwhile, Logan Price flipped a pancake without looking, barely registering the hiss of the griddle as he poured the next. His movements were smooth, efficient, not rushed, not careless. You don't spend 3 tours in the Marine Corps without learning precision. Even in a food court, discipline followed him like a shadow. A kid waved at him from across the counter. He smiled, raised his spatula like a salute. The little boy grinned, tugging at his mom's sleeve. Logan caught the movement out of the corner of his eye. Gregory approaching. He didn't tense, didn't shift, just let the last pancake slide onto the plate and nodded at Ella, the teenager working the register. "Table 4, go ahead, hon." Gregory's voice came like a storm that didn't wait to be invited. "Mr. Price," he said, smiling with teeth that... "Mr. Talbot," Logan replied, calm, courteous, standing tall but not confrontational. Gregory's gaze flicked over the framed photo, the flag, the nameplate. "You still think this is a military base or something?" Logan's eyes didn't flicker. "No, sir. Just a kitchen." "Funny, because the decor says otherwise." "It's just a picture and a flag, nothing illegal." "No," Gregory agreed. "Just unnecessary." Ella shifted behind the register, eyes darting between them. Gregory leaned forward, lowering his voice enough for venom. "Let me be very clear. I want this cleared out. The photo, the flag, the boots, all of it. You're not here to play hero. You're here to make hash browns." There was silence. Logan stared at him, not angry, not afraid, just quiet. Then he nodded. "If that's what you need to feel important, Mr. Talbot, I'll get out of your way." Gregory's smugness flared. He turned on his heel, already picturing how the next tenant would look in this space. Something trendy, vegan smoothies or maybe a bubble tea stand. Something that wouldn't make customers think about trauma or sacrifice. Logan wiped down the grill one final time, slid the framed photo into a box, and untied his apron. He didn't say a word, didn't storm out, just moved with the same discipline that once had him clearing buildings under fire. Ella looked up at him, heart racing. "You're really leaving?" "I wasn't hired to be a problem." "But you weren't," she whispered. "You were the only one here who treated people right." He nodded once and placed the folded American flag inside the box like he was tucking a memory into bed. Ivretti left, and 6 hours later, Westfield Pines Mall would never be the same again. Logan didn't go home, not at first. Instead, he walked. Past the pharmacy he never visited, past the empty movie theater marquee, past the tiny park where parents pretended they weren't just killing time while their kids spun circles in the grass. His box, the one with the photo, the folded flag, and his crumpled apron, was tucked under one arm. He held it like it might break. The streets didn't notice him. They rarely did. That was the strange thing about returning to civilian life. In the core, people noticed. Your absence was felt. But out here, you could vanish in real time, and no one would blink. He crossed Elm Street, past a trio of teenagers too busy scrolling to notice the man who once kicked in doors on the other side of the world. His knees ached. The metal plate in his shoulder pinged with each motion like a subtle reminder. "You're not just a cook." But he never said that out loud, not to anyone. At the corner of Ash and Dawson, he stopped in front of a modest brick building, the local American Legion post. The light inside flickered like it was tired of trying to stay on. Logan pushed open the door. Inside, the smell of old wood polish and stories no one wanted to repeat hung thick. A pair of veterans sat at a card table. One wore a navy ball cap with the bill curled up like it had lived 1,000 lives. The other had a cane leaning against his knee and a voice like dry gravel. "Logan," the one with the cap said, eyes lighting up. "You lose another poker night?" Gravel voice asked with a grin. Logan shook his head. "I lost something else." He set the box on the table, opened the flap. The men peered inside. Silence thickened. Gravel voice, whose name was Mel, looked up slowly. "You serious?" Logan nodded. Talbot. The Navy vet, Cliff, let out a low whistle. That man always acted like his money was more important than his morals. "I didn't fight him," Logan said. "Didn't raise my voice, just took the hint." "You shouldn't have to take a damn thing," Mel said. "That photo, that flag, that's your life. Not some theme he can delete to make room for another bubble tea stand." "He told me the flag made customers uncomfortable," Logan said. His voice was calm. It always was. Cliff leaned back. "Some people need to be uncomfortable. That's how they remember." Mel stood slowly, wincing from his knees. "He forgets the world that lets him own that mall exists, because men like you stood on the line." "I'm not looking to start something," Logan said. Mel raised an eyebrow. "Yeah? But what if something's already started?" Logan didn't answer. He didn't have to. The truth was sitting there in the box. Later that evening, back at his small rented bungalow, Logan placed the flag back on his mantel. Next to it sat a pair of dog tags. One his. One belonged to Corporal Jamie McGill, a young Marine who never made it home. He stared at the tags for a long time. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. It rang 3 times. "Morales," came the voice on the other end. Firm, clipped, unmistakably military. "It's Price," Logan said. There was a pause. Then, "Logan? I thought you dropped off the grid." "I did. Still am, mostly." "What's going on?" "I need a favor." The voice softened. "Anything. You know that. Not for me. For something bigger." "Talk to me." Meanwhile, in the food court at Westfield Pines Mall, Gregory Talbot stood in front of a group of vendors. PR reps. Cleaners. He wore a different jacket now, dark blue, fitted, the kind people in charge wore to make themselves look more approachable. He was giving a speech. And while we're always grateful for service, we must recognize that our mall caters to a modern audience, he said, waving one hand like a man waving away dust. We can't afford to hold on to outdated imagery that evokes division. It's about clean branding, inclusivity, fresh energy. A few of the younger staff clapped. Others looked at the floor. Ella stood at the edge of the group, fists clenched at her sides. When the speech ended, Gregory clapped himself on the back, metaphorically, of course, then turned to one of the camera crews he'd hired to film the event. "Edit it tight," he said. "Make me look good like I handled it with dignity." The cameraman said nothing, just nodded and kept rolling. Gregory didn't notice the hush spreading across the mall's upper floors. He didn't notice the way shoppers were whispering, pointing, pulling out phones. He didn't see the convoy yet. But Ella did. She was the first to hear it, the slow, unmistakable rumble of armored tires against pavement. 6 of them. Not police cruisers, not SUV, armored military police vehicles. Tan, rugged, United States marking still fresh beneath the dust. They pulled into the lot in perfect formation, and with them came a moment that would change everything. But for now, Logan stood alone in his kitchen, wiping the last pan clean. He wasn't sure how many people would show up. He wasn't even sure what would happen. He just knew he couldn't be quiet anymore. He had been quiet too long. Gregory Talbot was halfway through his third espresso when the phone buzzed again. Another notification. Another ping. Another trending alert with his name attached to it. Normally, that was a sign of success, a spike in mentions, a climb in clicks, but this time it felt like a crack forming in his perfectly polished marble facade. He glanced at the screen, saw a headline, and hissed under his breath. Mall owner removes veteran cook's flag, sparks outrage online. He tapped it open and winced. The video wasn't grainy. It wasn't secretly shot. It was front and center, clean audio and 4K. Him sneering across the counter at Logan Price, barking about bad optics and unnecessary symbols. There was even a zoom on the American flag as it was taken down. Someone had edited it with soft piano music in the background. Of course they had. He hurled the phone onto the conference room table and stood. "Where's Marta?" One of the junior executives, pale and sweating, raised a hand. She's on a call with legal." "Get her off it now. And get ahead of this. Push the spring-style preview post. Hide the comments flag and delete anything with his name. This is a PR flash fire and you all just standing around roasting marshmallows." Nobody said anything. They didn't need to, because through the thick glass windows of the west side of the mall's second floor, the convoy rolled into view. One after another, 6 armored vehicles pulled up just outside the main entrance. They didn't block traffic, didn't use sirens. They moved with intention, precision, authority. Gregory stepped to the window, jaw tight. What the hell is this now? National Guard? Protesters in cosplay? But Ella, still in her work apron, halfway through restocking the napkin dispensers at Logan's now empty booth, had already dropped what she was doing and started walking. Her feet moved without thinking, like her heart was pulling her forward before her brain caught up. As the doors slid open, the lead vehicle came to a full stop. A figure emerged. Not in dress blues, not in digital camo, a black tactical uniform with the MP insignia stitched on the shoulder. He was tall, composed, and calm. His beret was perfectly squared. His expression was unreadable. Staff Sergeant Ethan Morales scanned the food court as he stepped inside, boots echoing with each measured step. Behind him, 2 more MPs followed, then 3 more, all active duty, all uniformed, none here for theatrics. They were here on purpose. Together they made the food court feel like a courtroom. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Phones rose like flowers chasing the sun. Morales made no announcement. No theatrics. just walked to Logan's booth, stopped in front of it, and stood silently. Gregory came storming out of the upper-level corridor moments later, blazer flapping behind him like a cape he didn't earn. "Excuse me, he called, forcing a half-smile. "You can't just roll in here with tanks or whatever these are. This is private property. You can't—" Maurice didn't even glance at him. He turned, slowly, to face the growing crowd. "My name is Staff Sergeant Ethan Morales of the United States Military Police," he said. His voice carried, not loud but commanding. "We are here today not for enforcement, but for recognition." He stepped aside, and a second Marine, younger, red-handed, carrying a sealed aluminum case, opened it slowly. Inside was a plaque, gold trim, mahogany frame, etched in bold letters, "In honor of Logan Price, veteran, patriot, and example of unity in service to country and community." Gregory's face lost its color. Morales continued, "Logan Price served with distinction during 3 tours, including in Fallujah. His actions saved lives. His loyalty earned commendations, and yet, yesterday he was treated as if his service was shameful." A soft murmur swept through the onlookers. "We don't take that lightly." The MPs turned slightly, revealing the full insignias on their uniforms. Each bore a different campaign patch. Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. "We are not here to arrest. We are not here to protest. We are here to remind this place and everyone in it that dignity doesn't end when the uniform comes off. Respect doesn't expire when the war is over." Morales turned to the booth. He placed the plaque where the photo used to be, and then, without being prompted, he stood at attention. A slow beat passed. Then the next MP did the same, and the next, until all 6 stood in a row, saluting a booth with no cook, just a flag, and an empty griddle. Gregory stumbled forward. "Okay, that's enough," he said, flustered. "This isn't some parade. You've made your point." "Sir," Morales said evenly, "we haven't begun." He looked past Gregory, to the crowd, and to the security guards who once walked by Logan without a second glance, to the customers who suddenly remembered the man who knew their names and remembered their orders. A mother stepped forward with her son, the same little boy who waved at Logan earlier that week. She looked down at him. "Go on," she whispered. The boy stepped forward. He raised his hand in a clumsy little salute. Morales nodded, accepting it like it came from a general. Gregory turned wild-eyed. "Who told you to come here? Who arranged this? Is this some political stunt?" Morales met his gaze. "Logan Price didn't arrange this. He didn't have to. We watch out for our own." Outside the mall, a news van pulled up. Inside, the food court had changed. Not physically, but the air felt heavier now, like history had walked in and refused to leave quietly. And as Staff Sergeant Morales walked out, slowly, deliberately, no one tried to stop him, because everyone knew this wasn't a performance. This was a reckoning. Gregory looked around and realized, for the first time in his life, no one was looking at him, and he didn't like how that felt. Logan Price hadn't expected much when he opened the door that morning, just the usual creak of old hinges and a quiet porch coated in dust. He didn't expect a crowd, didn't expect flowers left by strangers. He certainly didn't expect to see a news van parked across the street with its boom mic aimed directly at his front steps. He wore the same boots he used behind the griddle, same plain t-shirt, same quiet eyes. But everything else had changed. There was a boy standing on his lawn, the same boy who had saluted the booth. Logan looked down at him, then over at the boy's mom, who gave a small nod. "We brought you something," the boy said, holding up a folded napkin. Inside was a crayon drawing, a stick figure behind a food counter, an American flag above his head, and the words, "Thank you, Mr. Logan," scrawled in red and blue. Logan crouched to one knee. "That's the best medal I've ever gotten," he said. The boy beamed. His mother's eyes glistened. By noon, Logan's quiet bungalow was no longer quiet. Veterans he hadn't seen in years showed up, some in uniform, some in faded denim, all standing a little straighter just by being near each other again. There were bikers with military patches, neighbors carrying casseroles, a few teenaged kids filming it all with a look of awe in their eyes. And then there was Ella. She stood near the porch steps, arms folded, nervous. "I kept your flag," she said. "I put it back in the frame. And I'm quitting the mall. That place isn't worth it." Logan gave a small smile. "It is, actually," he said. "It just needs better people in charge." She frowned. "You're not thinking of going back?" "I'm thinking," he said, "that cooking's what I do best. And there's a difference between walking away and being pushed out. I've never been good at the second one." She laughed, then bit her lip. "They offered me a scholarship," she added. "A local group. Said it was in your name. For veterans' kids. And employees who stood for something when it counted." Logan blinked. "They used my name? They said you're a symbol now." He exhaled and sat on the steps. "I never wanted to be a symbol. I just wanted to make good pancakes." "That's exactly why it worked," she said. By evening the street was quiet again, but not in the way it used to be. This time the silence felt earned, the calm that follows a storm, when you realize the roof didn't cave in after all. The next day, Westfield Pines Mall felt different. Gregory Talbot didn't return. After the video went viral, not just local news, but national coverage, the Board of Investors held an emergency session. A week later, Talbot's office was empty and his nameplate removed. No one said his name aloud anymore. Even his PR firm stopped returning calls. In his place, the board installed a new acting manager, someone who wasn't in retail or marketing, but who had experience in service and leadership. Colonel Richard Evans, retired. He wore a suit, not a uniform, but carried himself with the unmistakable bearing of someone who'd been saluted most of his life. He didn't walk the mall like he owned it. He walked it like it belonged to the people. And his first act? A memorial wall inside the food court, dedicated to local veterans, complete with photos, flags, and a digital display highlighting the stories of servicemen and women who now worked in everyday jobs. At the center of that wall, a framed image of Logan Price behind his counter, smiling, with a spatula in one hand and the American flag in the background. Underneath, a simple inscription. He served us then, he serves us still. When Logan returned to work a week later, the food court erupted in applause, not from actors or planted employees, real people. Kids clapped, elderly vets stood and saluted, customers brought signs. One woman hugged him over the sneeze guard and whispered, "My brother never made it back. Thank you for making it back and staying kind." Ella returned too, but not as a cashier. She started her first day as the new assistant operations manager for the entire mall. "You're the boss now?" Logan asked. "Assistant boss," she corrected. "Which means I do everything and get none of the credit." "That's how you know it's real leadership," he said, handing her a complimentary waffle. At the back of the crowd, Staff Sergeant Morales stood quietly, arms crossed, smiling. He didn't approach. He didn't need to. Logan saw him and gave a silent nod. Morales returned it, then disappeared into the crowd. Logan's griddle had a line again, longer than before, and this time no one rushed. People didn't just come for food. They came for the quiet integrity behind the counter, for the reminder that dignity doesn't retire. Late in the afternoon, just before closing, Logan saw the boy again, the one with the crayon drawing. This time, the boy had a small American flag in his hand. "I want to be like you," he said. Logan leaned over the counter. "Then promise me something," he said. "Be kind when no one's watching. Be strong when no one says thank you. And never let anyone tell you your story doesn't matter." The boy nodded solemnly. "I promise." As the sun dipped low and the food court emptied, Logan flipped one last pancake, slid it onto a plate, and smiled. The kind of smile that says, "We're still here." The kind that doesn't need medals, speeches, or viral videos. Disrespect. And sometimes that's enough to change everything.